Hello music lovers, welcome to episode 81 of What Makes This Song Special. As always, we've got a song to talk about, a little story from my past that takes me back to that song that makes the song special to me. We'll have a cover version of me doing the song in part 2. We'll talk a wee bit about the singer's voice, a wee vocal coach sort of analysis of the singer. That's the format of the show each week. If you haven't tuned in before, welcome. Thank you for pressing the button. Speaking of pressing buttons, if you can hit the subscribe button, the like button, leave a comment, all of these things really help the algorithm to get me more viewers so I can do more of these shows, maybe make them a little bit better produced than just the very organic way that I'm doing it here in the studio. But we'll dive into the story. So the story that takes me back to that song, or the story that I'm taken to, the memories that are opened up in my mind when I hear this song, are as follows. So a wee short one this week, a kind of short funny story after last week's kind of sad story and quite a long story, so we'll keep this one short and fun. 1998 was the summer before my last year of high school. And we were, as a family, as always, heading back to the old country for the summer holidays. Me, my mum, my dad, my brothers. And I was often allowed to bring along a friend or a friend of the brothers, Frankie, because we always used to try and debate on who would be allowed to take a pal. Sometimes once we get bigger cars, eventually we get the big kind of family bus, we could take a couple of pals. But my mate Neil Fraser, was the pal who got to experience the road trip through Europe that year, from Scotland down through England, the boat across to France, then into Belgium, a stop in Germany for a couple of nights to break up the journey, where we watched some of the football games that were happening in the World Cup. Of course, it was France 98, World Cup 1998. Of course, we were supporting Italy. Unfortunately, Scotland had already been eliminated by this point. We'd watched them go out in the group stages just before we left. But we're also cheering on sort of any team that were playing against England, as is our duty as Scots. Apologies to any of my English pals or viewers. I love you all very much, but just not your football team. From Germany, we drove south through Switzerland, and then down into the north of Italy, and all the way down past Rome to our hometown, sort of halfway between Rome and Naples in the mountains. And my mate Neil loved getting to see all of these places en route, and even though he couldn't speak a word of Italian, he made friends with all of my old mates from the village from when I lived there when I was a kid. And we used the international language of hand gestures in football, which has always worked, and I translated bits and pieces back and forward when he wanted to sort of converse with them. And it was an amazing summer, just great fun. As always, holidays tend to be, most of the time, pretty great places to be. So, and so onto the kind of the story. Where does the story begin for me? So the story happens during the final of the World Cup. We were in the local bar. It's called Aldo's Bar, and it's where everybody in the village would go to have a coffee in the morning and a pastry, as is customary in Italy, for breakfast. And it's where we used to maybe play a couple of wee arcade machines when we were kids. And at night, everybody comes and gets an ice cream or a beer or a glass of wine or whatever, and sit out till the early hours of the morning in the nice summer heat. And the place was packed for a small village. Obviously, there are only one or two bars in the village. It's a very small village. And on a night like that, when it's a World Cup final, even though Italy had already, unfortunately, been eliminated by this point in the quarter-finals to the Netherlands on penalties, everybody, it's a very football-loving country. Everybody wanted to watch the final, and it was France versus Brazil. And yeah, we had to settle for just enjoying football without a team to support, which wasn't as much fun. So we had to try and think of a way of making the evening fun for us, having no team to sort of support. And Neil had a new invention with him on holiday. This new invention, one in the shape of a wristwatch, the Casio CMD. I don't think many of you will remember the watch, or maybe the name of the watch from me saying that, but you might remember this when I explain it more. This thing was a cutting edge watch that had calculator buttons on the front, but most importantly, it had the ability to turn on and off televisions, video recorders, and adjust the volumes of those devices as well. And in the 90s, this was a huge deal. It's not like now where you can get apps to do these things, and technology wasn't that up to date, that it wasn't like that. And I don't think many people even knew that such a technological watch was even a thing. People didn't know it existed. And it'd been perfect for Neil sort of cheating in maths class at school when we weren't allowed our calculators for tests. But we had a more brilliant plan for his watch on this particular evening. So Neil somehow managed to tune it in to the big television, the huge TV that was on the wall in the bar at the start of the game. Tested it a couple of times by moving the volume up and down. Nobody really noticed, and that was as we were on. Our plan was in place. The plan had hatched. We just had to wait for the perfect moment. So there was a chance for Ronaldo, the phenomenal, the original Ronaldo, R9, about 10 minutes in, as he sprinted down the left wing. And just as he made the movement to look like he was going to shoot or cross it into the box, Neil switched the TV off in the bar. And this was met with lots of shouts and moans and groans from the locals, this busy, busy bar, as they waited for the bar staff to turn the television back on. Again, obviously using the remote control they had behind the bar, and they were looking really puzzled as to how this had happened. I think at first people thought it was maybe like an electrical thing, like in small villages in Italy, if there's ever like rain, or even without rain, sometimes the electricity just goes off in the whole town for a few minutes and then comes back on, or intermittently just. So I think maybe people thought that at first, like, oh God, the electricity here's terrible. Why did the TV go off? We were trying not to laugh too much so that we didn't get caught. So we're, trying to keep straight face. And by this point, a few of my pals, also from the village, were in on the joke as well. So they're all, quite a few of us by this point. And of course, as you can imagine, we just couldn't let it stop there. So we must have done it at least 10 times throughout the game, turning the volume up full blast till it was like deafening, turning it right down, switching channels, switching the television off, put it back on again. And everybody was getting really, really pissed off. It was hilarious. Looking back, we were just being little pain in the ass teenagers, basically just enjoying causing havoc and annoying people. But it was brilliant, and there was really no way of getting caught because, as I said before, nobody really knew that this device existed, especially not in the middle of nowhere in the mountains in Italy. Maybe in the cities, people kind of get to see these things first. If you lived in a bigger city, you might have seen it, but where we were in the mountains, nobody's seen a watch that can change the channels on the television or switch it on and off. So there was no suspicion. And even when we were all laughing at points and people were turning around and looking at us like, have they got something to do with this? We never had a remote control on us. Everybody knew the remote control was behind the bar. So it was the perfect time. We were instantly off the hook. Just brilliant fun. And one of those stories that always comes up when I meet up with Neil and we laugh about, we reminisce about things, and we always laugh about that night. After the game, we went to there's a wee park just 2 minutes away from the bar, and we all hung out in the park laughing about what we'd done and trying to throw each other in the fountain, as teenagers like to do, silly things like that. And one of the boys had a wee ghetto blaster kind of speaker with a tape deck on it with him, and he started playing Aerosmith because Neil had told him that they were his favourite band in one of the conversations that I had to translate back and forward for them a few days earlier. And I always remember Dream On came on, and it's just one of those songs where everybody knows that huge famous anthemic chorus, and we were in the park just all singing singing the famous chorus of Dream On. Just an amazing tune, a great night, fun times, great memories to look back on, just being a kid and having no worries and laughing at stupid stuff and just winding folk up. It was amazing. So there's my wee silly story this week. I told you I'd keep it short and fun. That's what the song reminds me of when I hear Dream On. Apart from just loving the song, because it's musically it's an amazing track. It's a masterpiece of a rock song. It's phenomenal. But I always think back to that moment as well in the park with us all just laughing about what we've just done with the television during the World Cup final, which France won 3-0, if anybody's wondering. If you're not football fans, you're just wondering who won that game. France won the World Cup that year, 3-0. So yeah, there's the wee story, silly wee story. But as always, we'll talk a wee bit about the song itself. There's a couple of wee interesting stories that kind of go along with this story. With this song, Steven Tyler wrote the idea for Dream on piano, or the piano part for it, on an upright Steinway when he was about 17. 4 years before Aerosmith really were formed. His dad was a classically trained pianist, and Stephen spent loads of time apparently lying underneath the piano when he was a little kid, listening to his dad playing the piano. So that's maybe where he became such a musical genius. But when they started Aerosmith, they were more of a guitar band, and he didn't have an organ or a piano to bring that song to life in the band the way he wanted it to, or wanted to kind of portray it. So then something really crazy happened, which people call the suitcase incident. Anybody who knows Aerosmith will have maybe heard of the suitcase incident. And the suitcase incident was basically, while they were working on their debut album, Steven Tyler found a suitcase outside the group's apartment in Boston, and took the suitcase. I don't know if he got curious and then took the suitcase, or if he took the suitcase and didn't open it and then got curious. But when the curiosity got the better of him, he opened the suitcase and realised that it was full of cash. There were thousands of dollars inside this suitcase. Now, putting two and two together, Boston being kind of pretty rough in parts city. No offence to any Bostoners out there. I'm sure it's a beautiful place in parts, but yeah, definitely there's like a lot of underground crime and stuff like that goes on in Boston. And I think they made the assumption that it was drug money. But bizarrely, Steven Tyler didn't tell his bandmates about the money. He didn't tell anyone in case someone slipped up and got them into trouble. He decided not to say a thing. So instead, he just went out and he bought a $2,000 organ / keyboard. This big, it's really cool actually. If I remember, I'll put like a picture of this thing. It's incredible. It was actually on Pawn Stars, that program where people take things to the pawn shop in Vegas and they sell it. Somebody recently had it and sold it. It was really interesting. But the Dream On organ, it's a kind of really cool, ornate looking thing, and he was able to then record Dream On the way he'd always envisaged. The gangsters did come looking for the money, and they even put a gun to Steven Tyler's head demanding that he told them where the money was, but he played dumb, said he knew nothing about it. And it took Gary Cabotzi, the band's manager at the time, to come into the room waving a sword about for the gangsters to retreat. And with their beautiful new keyboard, they were able to record Dream On and eventually make some steps into the big bad world of the music industry with that track. I mean, the first album wasn't as big a success as they'd wanted it to be, but when Dream On came out as a single, I think third or fourth single, that was the song that kind of started to make its way onto radio and start to make its way into creating a bit of a buzz about Aerosmith as a band. There's another really cool wee story that Steven Tyler tells in his autobiography, where, and I'll probably misrepresent this tale because I couldn't find the story anywhere when I was trying to research for this episode, to the point where I was like, did I dream this story? But I definitely didn't. When I read Steven Tyler's autobiography a couple of years ago, I remember there was this bit in it where he spoke about strange things that happen in your life, or little spooky coincidences, let's say. And apparently he lost. I mean, that's what happens when these bands are full of drugs and tours and crazy stuff. The piano, I mean, I don't know how a piano goes missing, but that organ went missing years ago, like years and years and years and years ago. And then decades later, he was out walking one day on this like kind of beachfront street, these lovely big houses up on the hill, and he said that he had this really strange urge to go to this house that he walked past. It was this beautiful house, and he said he had this urge to just go up to the door and say hello, and so these people must have been like, what the hell is Steven Tyler doing at my door? He turned up at the door, and he said that the organ was in their house when he went to the door, and he felt like he had some sort of connection with this organ, and he tried to buy it back, or he bought it back. I mean, as I said, whether that story's true or not, whether or not I did it a total injustice there is completely up for debate. If you're interested in the story, go and Google it and see if you can find it. I couldn't find it when I tried to Google it, but I definitely remember hearing him tell that story. It might have been in the Joe Rogan interview when he was on Joe Rogan a few years ago, and it might have been on the autobiography, but definitely that was something like the story he told about. It was pretty cool. I love stuff like that. So anyway, a quick analysis. I always talk a little bit about this as a vocal coach myself. I like to investigate and analyse other singers' voices. Steven Tyler's voice, wow. I mean, where do we start with Steven Tyler's voice? I mean, maybe the ultimate rock voice. I know that's a big statement, especially as you know my favourite singer ever is Freddie Mercury, also a rock singer. But Tyler has that real rock star voice that's sort of more synonymous with that style of music. That incredible range, power, control, the big rock screams in his chest and head voice, the presence, the charisma, amazing. And not just for rock, the guy has got soul, he can sing the blues, he can sing it all. He's just got such a cool voice. I was so sad to see Aerosmith's announcement last week on their social media channels that they've decided to stop touring because of Steven's voice. It's tragic. It really is. It's tragic. I hate to hear that about singers. It's the biggest fear of, I suppose, every singer, because we love to sing, and the thought of not being able to do that is just a horrible. It's unthinkable. In some respects, it's a miracle that Steven Tyler's even still alive. Never mind able to sing. The drug abuse, the endless touring, the alcohol, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, 3 vocal surgeries. I think. Over the years as well, to kind of revitalise or fix his chords. It's astonishing that he was still able to sing the songs of Aerosmith in the original keys up until very, very recently, when there are videos of him singing a year or two ago songs that are hard for a 20-year-old to sing, and he's singing them. He's 76. I mean, he's 76 years old. There aren't many 76-year-olds who can sing those notes. Especially after the years of as I said, drug, alcohol, and vocal abuse. So I really hope that he recovers, and they get back on stage or in the studio at some point, even if it's not big long tours. It'd be amazing for him to get his voice back to a place where he could at least sing a little bit again. Hopefully more than that, but his voice is just one of the most iconic sounds in rock music history. Just amazing, amazing voice. So there we go. That is why today's song, Aerosmith, Dream On. That's why it's special to me. If it's a special song to you, if it reminds you of something funny or sad or important in your life, please leave a wee comment. It'd be great to get a wee comment to see what you think of the song. An incredible song. And if you hit part 2 any minute, somewhere here, I'm going to try and cover it, just me at the piano. Not the easiest one to do, but we'll see how it goes. If you want to see me try and cover Dream On by Aerosmith, then hit the link. As I said before, please subscribe, hit the like button, hit the share button. I'd love to do more of these. I'd love to do them more regularly. We could cover lots and lots of different songs if I had more time to do this. So the more people who get on board and get subscribing, the better. I will be back next week, as always, with another song, another story. Until then, thank you so much.